Well, hey there, it's Sandy Allnock, an artist who loves to decorate for Easter, and I'm going to recommend you get started extra early for your Easter crafts if you like to do eggs. And by doing this, you can spread the pain of buying those eggs out over time. Now, I was looking up statistics on how many eggs the normal American eats. And it's, something like 5 or 6 per week. That might be less right now, simply because eggs are so expensive. But if you plan now and start blowing the eggs, saving the insides of them and using those for cooking and baking and all that sort of thing, then by Easter in a month, you're potentially going to have a bunch of eggs that you can use for your holiday decorating. So I'm going to show you how to blow an egg, and then I'll show you how I decorated this one. This first clip of video is from my Pisanki egg video, and I'll link to both of those that I did in 2020, I think it was, and showed how I made my first Pisanki eggs. And I started by marking, using a piece of graphite paper, the center of the egg. You can balance the egg on its tip and mark that. And you can do that with other things too, but graphite paper is here in the studio, so that's what I did it with. I poked my holes at that time using a Dremel. Didn't feel like getting it out this time, so I just used a needle, a really thick, heavy needle, and, tapped a hole through it and then tried to carefully pull those little tiny chips of egg out at the end. But a Dremel will make a really nice round hole if that's your goal. Mine was not about perfection this time, so I was just having fun with it. And this is a step not to forget, because if you take a toothpick and stab the yolk, then it's going to bust it up, and it's going to make it easier to either blow with your breath, because that's going to be the less technological way to do it, or if you have something like an airbrush that you can blow the egg with, then you can just point it into the hole and it'll push the egg out the other side. But I did not remember the step of stabbing the yolk this time, because I haven't blown any eggs in quite a while. So I ended up, unfortunately, busting through one of my eggs, and I only have one to decorate at this time. But I am going to be working for the next couple weeks. Every time I'm going to make something with an egg, I want to try to blow the egg so that I have empty ones that I can decorate. Because I want to do that, even though eggs are ridiculously expensive right now. I hope they somehow get that bird flu under control. All right, so I decided for this one, I wanted to do kind of an ode to Van Gogh's Starry Night. And to do so, I'm using the Staedtler pigment pens. Because I'm going to be at NAMTA in Seattle. NAMTA is the International, Artist Materials Association. So it's a trade association for people to buy stuff for their art stores, etc. So I'll be demonstrating these pigment pens and doing a project, a make and take there. And I also wanted to have some other samples of things you could use these pens on. And I decided I wanted to try it on an egg, because these colors are nice and bright, which works great for something like Easter eggs. They have really fine points, so you can get into all kinds of detail. The solution that I'm using is their blending solution. And what I found was that, and I was just trying it here, I wasn't really sure if I needed it, but I was wanted to see if the blending solution would work on an egg and what would happen. You can actually get a really soft wash with that blending solution. And these pens will dry permanent unless you use that blending solution. So that's kind of a nice thing, so you don't end up with color that's going to bleed all over the place. But I also know from past projects using these pens that I could layer colors on top of each other, and once they're dry, they're not going to lift again unless I use that blending solution. So I started with my lighter colors and just started piling the darker ones, darker and darker colors as I went. I happen to have the full 60 set of colors. That's the full range of them right now. And they sent them to me, so full disclosure, they're a partner of mine, and I've been doing some artwork for various things for them. Like I said, I'll be at the NAMTA show. And they, last time that I did one of these videos with these markers, they didn't have the full 60 set available in America. I don't know what the availability was around the rest of the world, but they are now available, and I have put links in the doobly-doo so you can go shopping for them if you like these and you want more colors. So the full 60 set is full of lots of variety of colors. Now, I was trying again with a lighter touch using the blending solution on some of this just to fill in more of the white. But Van Gogh's Starry Night has a lot of just chunky brush strokes that make up that motion going around in the sky and in the buildings at the bottom and stuff. So I was kind of trying to see how much of that little linear look that I wanted and how much I wanted it looking, a little more blended. Because there's a lot of different ways when you're trying to replicate something, and I wasn't trying to replicate it exactly, but you're trying to make an ode to a particular piece of artwork. You can choose whether you want the overall effect of the stars in the sky, or are you looking for the overall effect of all those brush strokes? Lots of different ways to approach it. But what I found was the colors that I kept choosing, the sky kept turning more of a turquoise color rather than the blue color that the painting has. So over, the time as I was adding more and more colors, I just kept layering more colors in here. And you can see I can go right over top of what's here because it's dry, and none of the color underneath will move. If you were to use a Tombow marker to do this, you would get all kinds of blending mess and you would lose some of that detail. So I'll speed this up a little bit as we get into the town down below, because in the painting, there's a city down below on the ground. There's a big tree shape that comes up. You'll see that at the end. But I kind of had to expand the view of the city because, the city would just be like one half of this whole thing. So I just made up the city and used some of the shapes that I saw in Van Gogh's painting. So we had a lot of rectangles in there, doorways, open windows, that kind of stuff in a variety of different kinds of colors that I'll just keep adding in here after I get some of the basic line work in. But I'm not trying to replicate his exact buildings, just getting the flavor of them. So when somebody looks at this, they'll get in their mind, oh, I've seen that painting before. So, the hillsides have certain types of angled lines in them and stuff. As I was working on these dark blue outlines and then adding this more royal blue color in here, I realized I was going to have to put the royal blue in the sky too. So the sky was busy drying while I was doing this bottom part. So a lot of it, if you're using these markers, let one half dry while you're working on the other half. And I knew I was going to just keep adding layers, so no big deal to add that later, but I definitely could see the difference between the tealish color in the sky and the more bluish color down below. Wanted to bring those two back together. So I started putting in lines of that darker blue color in the sky as well to bring all of that together. Once I got the whole city down below and the mountain range in the background, then I started putting in that big tree thing, that tree shape thing. Now, if you zoom